welcome back to another story from Tales from Tech Support. Watching in horror over Zoom as someone nearly deletes a production database. I work for a software development agency, and one of our biggest clients, an FX payment company, went into administration. It was a huge cluster F word. The company was holding money for hundreds of clients, and the administrators needed to wade through all the app's transaction data to work out who they owe money to, sometimes thousands per user. All this data was stored in an AWS Aurora database cluster, which had automated daily backups, multi-AZ deployments, and read replicas, idiot-proof. What I failed to realise was the administrator's sheer determination to F it up. We offered to help them sort out the AWS account. The server bill was huge, and most of it was unnecessary now the company wasn't trading. We could do a few hours work and save them thousands in hosting. We got no response. About a week later, we get automatically forward a bunch of past due warnings from AWS. We send them to the administrator. Nothing. AWS suspends the account. No more database. The administrators panic. Find the money from somewhere and their tech guy reinstates the database. All the data is wrong. They call us in a panic and we look at it. Turns out their tech guy found the database snapshots and created a new database from them. Only, instead of taking the latest of the daily automated backups, he decided to pick a 5-year-old manual snapshot instead. We fix it. Everyone makes mistakes, right? Fast forward to today, 2 months later, we get another panicked call. They can't see any data in the database. I jump on a video call and their tech guy shares his screen. I'm looking at a local database schema in my SQL workbench. It has no tables in it. Their tech guy had exported the AWS database to his local machine. He then deleted the AWS database cluster. His local database was the only remaining copy of the production schema, and it was empty. Fighting the rising scene of dread, my last hope was that he'd exported the database successfully, and he just screwed up importing it to MySQL. Still on my screen share, I asked him to open the original database dump. Hopefully, we could try importing it again. My home connection is crappy. I could see his screen, but at this moment the audio cut out completely. This is important because nobody could hear me scream as their tech guy hit the save as icon instead of the open icon. I watched, helpless, as he navigated to the only intact copy of the production database, which he was about to overwrite with whatever junk was in his editor. It was only at the final moment, as his mouse hovered over the save button, that he heard my stream of 4-letter words and stopped what he was doing. The data was intact, but he still has the only copy, just waiting to be effed up once more. Today is a whiskey day. Edit. Clarified that he stopped at the last minute. TLDR. A client in administration try every way possible to F up their production database, ending with me having to watch their tech guy via screen share as he almost deletes the last copy. Geez, could you imagine if he'd wiped that database? All hell would have broke loose. Moving on to today's second story. You own a what? Kind of front desk. We had a few desks that shared first contact with customers. Mine was the repair desk, technically, but I could do standard sales, customer refunds, stock checks and back orders too. My desk was also the hub for floor walkers and security radio charging docks. Elsewhere, we had the checkouts and business customer lounge, giant perspex box with sofa, coffee machine and terminal for payments and basic forms. This particular post involves ink cartridge refills and replacement for printers. For those unfamiliar with these things, there are literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of different ink cartridges and designs. A long time ago, there only used to be perhaps 20 different ink cartridges for a small amount of photo quality machines for the domestic market and fewer for the expensive office types. It used to be a very controlled purchase because this stuff was very expensive to begin with. Now you can get a cartridge for perhaps 10 cents per unit or less. We used to refill cartridges with syringes and needles with selected shades of cyan, magenta, yellow and black, and different brands had different shades of each. Whenever we offered our services, we asked customers to sign a waiver which told the customer, "Your experience of colour and quality of your printing may differ from the original brand's expectations." In other words, your kid's skin tone in a printed photo might look different from reality and you'd need to adjust print settings accordingly. We store these waivers in conjunction with a customer number and copies of receipts for various uses, including the unlikely event of an audit from the ink companies we had license with, and to identify repeat customers who might benefit from a promotion or two. Anyway, an early Karen walked right up to my desk and slapped down a mess of paper and ink cartridge, stuffed in a file transparency pocket and the receipt, demanding a refund. Okay, fair enough. I asked what happened and they said, "The machine leaked everywhere and messed up 16 copies. Wait, 16? I thought this number was odd. Surely you'd stop printing after the first or third mess. "I'm trying to print party invitations for my kid and I can't because you effed up the refill." I stared at her for a moment, but was willing to overlook the rudeness on account of the woman's anger. "What the F are you gonna do about it?" Second strike. "Well, let's see. What printer are you using?" "What's that got to do with it?" "I need to know which brand of ink I need to check." "Oh, it's a BMW. "What?" To my knowledge, they don't nor ever have made domestic printers. Maybe something in their own offices, but I highly doubt it. A BMW? They do printers now, do they? I lazily slip on a glove, latex-free rubber-like glove, and pick up the mess, taking out the cartridge. On inspection, I can just about make out the Canon logo and I'm about to access the records with my clean hand, but pause on the next sentence coming out of her mouth. "Duh, okay. I want to speak to a manager." Third strike. "I am the manager on shift right now. How can I help?" "No, I want to speak to your supervisor." "Oh, the owner. They're away on business elsewhere, but I can take a message or give you their email address if you like." "Can't I just take my money back now?" "I'm sorry, but all refunds need to be assessed and still take 5 working days to process." I gingerly placed the ink cartridge back down on the messy photo paper. "You know what? I bought the printer from you too. I'll come back with it and you can refund me that too." She snatched up the mess, stuffed it in her handbag. 3 days later, I'd almost forgotten the incident when Karen came back with a big grey Brother printer and slammed it on the desk, breaking a chip off the paper tray in the process. I glanced up at her, the nearby security camera watching my till and looking back at the customer. "There!" She also whipped out the transparency pocket and receipt and slammed that on my desk too. I picked up the Canon cartridge and held it next to the Brother printer. Thing is, there is no way that cartridge would fit into the Brother cartridge holder. They were 2 completely different shapes, and Canon usually held individual colours in the individual slots, while Brother had a cartridge for 3 colours and 1 for black. There is no way I knew that the 2 could ever meet. I opened the Brother printer cover and peered into it with incredulous horror. It looked like a blood bag had exploded in there. The rubbery ribbon that pulled the print head back and forth was nearly torn in two, and the carrier was practically demolished. I looked closer and saw what looked like deliberate marks from a knife or screwdriver or something. It was all chewed up, but from an external direction, the machine did the rest of it itself from the mechanical action. "Ma'am, you did this, didn't you?" "Well, I had to, otherwise it wouldn't fit. My boyfriend had to use a hammer." "Your husband? You didn't do it?" "That's the point. I made it fit, but it didn't work. My boy's party is in 2 weeks and..." "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I cannot help you, and I have to ask you to leave. I just didn't have the energy to deal with this stupid woman, and we're always reminded that we don't have to serve anyone if we don't want to. Time wasters or abusive customers are a big no-no." Oh boy, did she rage. Threw the printer at me over the desk and prompted a police call while security went into bouncer mode. They calmed her down outside, and when the owner got back the following weekend, reviewed the security footage, a magistrate later ruled in our favour for damages and distress to our staff as a whole. Turns out, in the hearing, the Karen was actually on meds for psychological stuff, paranoid schizophrenia I think it was, and had a history of kicking off in other shops all over town, but wasn't getting social services, county budgets etc., but magistrate enforced her rights to it and other help later. Bittersweet story really. Mental health is a big struggle, but yeah, don't serve if you don't feel like it. Still, a BMW printer. I still smile trying to imagine that one. If you enjoyed both of today's stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as it really helps me, and we're nearly at 2,200 subs. See you tomorrow.